The Temperance Crusade and Woman's Rights, 1873, by Mark Twain. The Women's Crusade against the rum sellers continues. It began in an Ohio village early in the new year and has now extended itself eastwardly to the Atlantic seaboard, 600 miles, and westwardly, at a bound, without stopping by the way, to San Francisco, about 2,500 miles. It has also scattered itself along down the Ohio and Mississippi rivers southwardly some 10 or 1,200 miles. Indeed, it promises to sweep, eventually, the whole United States, with the exception of the little cluster of commonwealths which we call New England. Puritan New England is sedate, reflective, conservative, and very hard to inflame. The method of the Crusaders is singular. They contemn the use of force in the breaking up of the whiskey traffic. They only assemble before a drinking shop or within it and sing hymns and pray hour after hour and day after day, if necessary, until the publican's business is broken up and he surrenders. This is not force, at least they do not consider it so. After the surrender, the Crusaders march back to headquarters and proclaim the victory and ascribe it to the powers above. They rejoice together a while, and then go forth again in their strength and conquer another whiskey shop with their prayers and hymns and their staying capacity, pardon the rudeness, and spread that victory upon the battle flag of the powers above. In this generous way, the Crusaders have parted with the credit of not less than 3,000 splendid triumphs, which some carping people say they gain their own selves, without assistance from any quarter. If I am one of these, I am the humblest. If I seem to doubt that prayer is the agent that conquers these rum sellers, I do it honestly and not in a flippant spirit. If the Crusaders were to stay at home and pray for the rum seller and for his adoption of a better way of life, or if the Crusaders even assembled together in a church and offered up such a prayer with a united voice, and it accomplished a victory, I would then feel that it was the praying that moved heaven to do the miracle. For I believe that if the prayer is the agent that brings about the desired result, it cannot be necessary to pray the prayer in any particular place in order to get the ear or move the grace of the deity. When the Crusaders go and invest a whiskey shop and fall to praying, one suspects that they are praying rather less to the deity than at the rum man. So I cannot help feeling, after carefully reading the details of the rum sieges, that as much as 9/10 of the credit of each of the 3,000 victories achieved thus far belongs of right to the Crusaders themselves, and it grieves me to see them give it away with such spendthrift generosity. I will not afflict you with statistics, but I desire to say just a word or two about the character of this crusade. The Crusaders are young girls and women, not the inferior sort, but the very best in the village communities. The telegraph keeps the newspapers supplied with the progress of the war, and thus the praying infection spreads from town to town, day after day, week after week. When it attacks a community, it seems to seize upon almost everybody in it at once. There is a meeting in a church, speeches are made, resolutions are passed, a purse for expenses is made up, a praying band is appointed. If it be a large town, half a dozen praying bands, each numbering as many as 100 women, are appointed, and the working district of each band marked out. Then comes a grand assault in force, all along the line. Every stronghold of rum is invested. First one, and then another champion ranges up before the proprietor and offers up a special petition for him. He has to stand meekly there behind his bar, under the eyes of a great concourse of ladies who are better than he is and are aware of it, and hear all the secret iniquities of his business divulged to the angels above, accompanied by the sharp sting of wishes for his regeneration, which imply an amount of need for it which is in the last degree uncomfortable to him. If he holds out bravely, the Crusaders hold out more bravely still, or at least more persistently, though I doubt if the grandeur of the performance would not be considerably heightened if one solitary Crusader were to try praying at 100 rum sellers in a body for a while, and see how it felt to have everybody against her instead of for her. If the man holds out, the Crusaders camp before his place and keep up the siege till they wear him out. In one case, they besieged a rum shop 2 whole weeks. They built a shed before it and kept up the praying all night and all day long every day of the fortnight, and this in the bitterest winter weather too. They conquered. You may ask if such an investment and such interference with a man's business, in cases where he is protected by a license, is lawful, by no means. But the whole community being with the Crusaders, the authorities have usually been overawed and afraid to execute the laws, the authorities being, in too many cases, mere little politicians, and more given to looking to chances of re-election than fearlessly discharging their duty according to the terms of their official oaths. Would you consider the conduct of these Crusaders justifiable? I do thoroughly justifiable. They find themselves voiceless in the making of laws and the election of officers to execute them. Born with brains, born in the country, educated, having large interests at stake, they find their tongues tied and their hands fettered, while every ignorant whiskey-drinking foreign-born savage in the land may hold office, help to make the laws, degrade the dignity of the former and break the latter at his own sweet will. They see their fathers, husbands, and brothers sit inanely at home and allow the scum of the country to assemble at the primaries, name the candidates for office from their own vile ranks, and unrebuked elect them. They live in the midst of a country where there is no end to the laws and no beginning to the execution of them. And when the laws intended to protect their sons from destruction by intemperance lie torpid and without sign of life year after year, they recognize that here is a matter which interests them personally, a matter which comes straight home to them. And since they are allowed to lift no legal voice against the outrageous state of things they suffer under in this regard, I think it is no wonder that their patience has broken down at last, and they have contrived to persuade themselves that they are justifiable in breaking the law of trespass when the laws that should make the trespass needless are allowed by the voters to lie dead and inoperative. I cannot help glorying in the pluck of these women, sad as it is to see them displaying themselves in these unwomanly ways, sad as it is to see them carrying their grace and their purity into places which should never know their presence, and sadder still as it is to see them trying to save a set of men who, it seems to me, there can be no reasonable object in saving. It does not become us to scoff at the Crusaders, remembering what it is they have borne all these years, but it does become us to admire their heroism, a heroism that boldly faces jeers, curses, ribald language, obloquy of every kind and degree in a word, every manner of thing that pure-hearted, pure-minded women such as these are naturally dread and shrink from, and remain steadfast through it all, undismayed, patient, hopeful, giving no quarter, asking none, determined to conquer and succeeding. It is the same old superb spirit that animated that other devoted, magnificent, mistaken crusade of 600 years ago. The sons of such women as these must surely be worth saving from the destroying power of rum. The present crusade will doubtless do but little work against intemperance that will be really permanent, but it will do what is as much, or even more, to the purpose, I think. I think it will suggest to more than one man that if women could vote, they would vote on the side of morality, even if they 999 vote and speak rather frantically and furiously. And it will also suggest that when the women once made up their minds that it was not good to leave the all-powerful primaries in the hands of loafers, thieves, and pernicious little politicians, they would not sit indolently at home as their husbands and brothers do now, but would hoist their praying banners, take the field in force, pray the assembled political scum back to the holes and slums where they belong, and set up some candidates fit for decent human beings to vote for. I dearly want the women to be raised to the political altitude of the Negro, the imported savage, and the pardoned thief, and allowed to vote. It is our last chance, I think. The women will be voting before long, and then, if a B.F. Butler can still continue to lord it in Congress, if the highest offices in the land can still continue to be occupied by perjurers and robbers, if another Congress, like the 42nd, consisting of 15 honest men and of the other kind, can once more be created, it will at last be time, I fear, to give over trying to save the country by human means and appeal to Providence. Both the great parties have failed. I wish we might have a woman's party now and see how that would work. I feel persuaded that in extending the suffrage to women, this country could lose absolutely nothing and might gain a great deal. For 30 centuries, history has been iterating and reiterating that in a moral fight, woman is simply dauntless. And we all know, even with our eyes shut upon Congress and our voters, that from the day that Adam ate of the apple and told on Eve down to the present day, man, in a moral fight, has pretty uniformly shown himself to be an arrant coward. I will mention casually that while I cannot bring myself to find fault with the women whom we call the Crusaders, since I feel that they, being politically fettered, have the natural right of the oppressed to rebel, I have a very different opinion about the clergymen who have in a multitude of instances attached themselves to the movement, and by voice and act have countenanced and upheld the women in unlawfully trespassing upon whiskey mills and interrupting the rum sellers' business. It seems to me that it would better become clergymen to teach their flocks to respect the laws of the land and urge them to refrain from breaking them. But it is not a new thing for a thoroughly good and well-meaning preacher's soft heart to run away with his soft head.